Good evening and welcome to another episode of Apolitically Incorrect Guyana. My name is Kian Jabour and my guest today is Mr. Timothy Jonas. And we have sorry we missed last week, first of all. Let me tell everyone, I got in to another accident on our death trap, so we call road. I was hit by a minibus who decided he was just gonna change lanes without looking or anything, and his passenger door that he lets passengers into hit the side of me and knocked me off the road, and I went flying into the seawall, and I broke my leg. Actually, I broke both of my legs. I don't know if you both of them. I broke one shin and I broke my ankle, but my ankle luckily was a very minor fracture, so that's all the bruises that you're seeing here with me. It's not, it's not anything worse than
no robbery or murder going on.
No, yeah. Thank God it's only a road accident. Thank God I was only knocked down. But it's becoming a really. Tim, people are genuinely scared to go onto the roads these days.
Yes, you're seeing it.
People are scared to leave their houses. People are scared for their children to leave the houses.
A very good friend of mine said that every morning when he walks out his door, he's got to gird his loins and grind his teeth and get ready to face the war that is day-to-day life.
Seriously.
In our society. And there's truth to it. There's aggravation on the road, there's aggravation in the workplace, there's aggravation dealing with our institutions. We gotta get better.
Our main two topics today are one, the cash grant situation, but I don't mind getting into this argument about what's happening on the roads quickly and how to stop this, because I think we have a lot of excuses. I think we have a lot of angry people. I think that we've reached a state where every man for himself out there. All right. I mean, I have a worker that's scared to ride a bicycle to come to work. There was a man there was a day after I got in my accident. By the way, as another note, just to state, my accident wasn't even reported to police. And not because, and I mean this in the, least judgmental way, I guess, because it was my choice to do. Like, bear that in mind, my choice. When I got knocked down, I was really, really badly wounded. I was on the road bleeding. My leg was basically off. And at that given moment, we didn't have time to call the police. They were like, we need to call the police and get him down here. And I'm like, I have to go to a hospital. I cannot sit here for 20 minutes and wait for a police to show up here. And then for us to go through all the questions and chalk up. And I understand that it needed to be done. But I'm sorry, just in my mind at that given moment, just, pouring blood out, I had to leave immediately. And after that, there's nothing that could have been done. And I'm not sure.
I think maybe part of our problem is we don't even know what the rules are.
Yeah.
I wonder how many drivers actually know what their responsibility is if there's an accident.
Yeah.
So I know in Barbados, for example, they are told very clearly, and as part of their driving education program, that you don't leave the scene of the accident. Mm-hmm. So you have to wait for the police to turn up to take their measurements and see where the cars are and all of that. Mm-hmm. We abandoned that long ago.
Yeah.
And really we are obligated immediately to inform the police. And usually there's a kind of leeway. So a day, 2 days, you need to report it within that space of time. But you're right, the aggravation involved in that and the knowledge that very infrequently does anything come of it. Very infrequently is there a real investigation, sensibly done. Most people don't even worry. And if most people can resolve it right there or bully their way through right there, most people do it that way. Mm. Now, interestingly enough, the last two accidents not that I was involved in, but that I had to be helping with, I was really impressed with the approach that the policemen took. The two policemen, two mutually exclusive situations. Yeah. Their approach in the face of hostility and anger and resentment and all of that was to say very calmly to both sides, nobody came out to the house planning to have an accident, intending to have an accident. It's called an accident because nobody planned for it to happen.
It's an accident.
And I found that immediately lowered the tone and made the outcome more reasonable. I was impressed with how professional they were, at least at the scene. Maybe we can see more like that.
Well, that's definitely, I think it always has to be said, and we can say this for the government too, and for the opposition when they were in power. I do believe that there are people that are there that genuinely want to do a good job. I believe there are people that are there genuinely trying to help. They're not in there because, you know, they're there to make a raise, you know, they're there for power, they're there for glory, whatever it is. There are a few people in between. And the reality is, it boils back down to systems, right? And you know, it's a conversation that I know you love to stick on, but because it is the most important. I mean, nothing can happen unless the systems are correct.
There have to be systems.
There has to be systems. And I think that is where the breakdown is coming right now on our roadways. One, systems, when I'm gonna be very, very simplistic here. I mean, just talking about people, getting people angry, just getting people frustrated. I mean, when it comes to construction of roads, we agree, roads need to be built, roads need to be fixed, but there has to be a plan for traffic. There has to be a plan for how your people are maneuvering seamlessly around this work that's being done. Yes, we expect for there to be, you know, minor, obviously, you know, issues, you know, maybe hold-ups, but it should not be, oh geez, they're fixing my road, so I need to spend an hour and a half more in traffic. I'm sorry, if there's one thing that I can state, and I know everyone in Guyana can state, is they start fixing a road, and hopefully they don't just stop halfway and left you there. But there's no like signage, there's no safety precautions in place. I mean, you look how long that sand been on the east, on the Line Top Road, just right at the edge of the road. I mean, there are so many construction sites going on that you're sitting down there saying, I appreciate the work being done, but I can't overlook the fact that this is just being done haphazardly. You're putting people's lives at risk. I mean, us on motorcycles, I mean, even drivers, you're just driving and all of a sudden you fall in a hole because they patch in this hole. You say, you're sitting there going, oh gosh, I'm glad they patched in this hole, but now I just broke cracked my rim. I mean, sorry, or you veer off the road and knock somebody down, or you crash yourself.
I think one of the problems is if you don't respect the systems that we have inherited. And these systems are in place. It's not that there are no systems. There are structures in place that we inherited from the British 50 years ago.
Yeah.
But if we ignore them and we allow them to decay and become irrelevant,
right,
what you're left with is arbitrary decision making by the people in power.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing. And one that bothers me, we're seeing the new bridge across the Demerara River. It needed to be done. People may talk about if it's in the right place and if there needs to be a second one and all of that, fine. But if you're going to start a project like that, you don't run roughshod over the rights of people who are there. Mm-hmm. People have found their houses and properties being taken away without any regard to the system. And then when they protest, the answer by the government has been recently to propose that they're amending the legislation to allow them to take it away and then to compensate you after. Now, that's unacceptable by any stretch.
Yeah.
A competent management team would have looked at the situation, looked at the plan, see who they're affecting, talk to them long before even the first shovel goes to turn over the first piece of soil. Right. And sort all of that out.
Correct.
Before you get
There's a whole plan. You're building a whole bridge or whatever.
When you run roughshod over people's rights, you are showing that you don't care about their rights. Mm-hmm. You're more interested in being able to cut a ribbon, take a picture to say what a great job we're doing because here's a wonderful bridge. But that's not how you manage. It's not how you run a country. You run a country showing respect for your citizens. Yeah. And that same disrespect, I think, filters down to how our roads are managed, the use of the roads, the police, for example. I cannot go to work in the morning without 2 or 3 police vehicles making all the traffic go to the side of the road while they fly through with their sirens blaring. There's no emergency. We don't have 3 emergencies.
The Parado is not going to an emergency.
Every day on a morning.
Okay, exactly. So, no minister got an emergency that they need to be at.
Because the system has broken down and there is no recognition that these people are only allowed to use their sirens when there is an emergency. When they go into the scene of a crime, going to put out a fire, going to catch a thief.
Or an ambulance.
If they're not doing that, they need to be stopping at the red light like the rest of us.
Yeah.
There's no recognition of that system, and therefore our oppression is worse.
Yeah.
And if we don't start respecting the systems and insisting that the authorities respect the systems that are designed to protect us, we continue down that slide, and we're going down that slide now.
Tim, we're watching this so much now of this this bullying mentality. I mean, I can tell you right now, I know a lot of people don't know this out there, and they make excuses, government sympathizers, etc., because the other one, they're better than the other one. At the end of the day, I can tell you right now, most of those vehicles with red and blue flashing lights, they're not even minister vehicles. You know that a couple of our government officials have, for example, concierge services that they send people to the airport and so on with these flashing lights.
Well, I don't know. But
no, I'm telling you for a fact.
I know that a government vehicle doesn't automatically entitle somebody to use lights or have a siren.
Pardon, I telling people that I could pay a company right now to drive me to the airport with lights.
But again, I'm talking about systems. So
right.
As the systems fall down, you have more arbitrariness and you have more oppression. Mm-hmm. And we see it in every segment of our society.
And this is what I think the people are missing. They're sitting down there saying, well, I'm looking at the Harbour Bridge situation. You've watched these people complain that they're not getting their fair share. The system wasn't followed. They're just being given whatever, freck that the government has decided to give them because the law state that they could take back this land for public use or whatever the law states. And again, you sit down here and have people that are trying to defend that. Like, oh, this is what comes with progress. And it's these idiots, and I'm sorry, I know you don't like me getting riled up, but it's these idiots that are saying this because it's not happening to them, or they got a link in the government, or they're part of the government. But if it's their house getting taken away, if it's their family that is being inconvenienced, if it's their road that hasn't been fixed, or has been left halfway for 2 years now, blocking up their vehicle, dust all over the place, the child got asthma, then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. They feel they could make a call to some big boy and say, man, sort this out for me. But I'm sorry, Tim. The majority of Guyanese are being treated like second-class citizens.
Another aspect of the breakdown in the system, and we got to define what progress is. Because for me, progress is the refining of our systems so that everybody is secure in their dignity, in their day-to-day life. Your dignity in keeping your property, your dignity in driving safely, your dignity in your standard of living, in your health care, and your education care. Mm-hmm. And if the systems don't work, all of those things break down, there is no dignity. Yeah. Progress is not building a monument. And insofar as the bridge is a monument, it's not progress if it is being done in a way that oppresses people.
Right.
So you have to see how you define progress. And in any enlightened society, progress occurs where your average citizen is secure in his dignity.
Yeah.
And right now, we are all hanging on by our fingernails.
But that's the anger that's developing in people.
And anger is developing, and it's a vicious cycle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because people drive anyhow.
Yeah.
Because nobody obeys the rules.
Correct.
And even the example we give with the sirens, you are so accustomed now to hearing sirens behind you. People have started to ignore it.
Ignore it.
And that makes it even more dangerous situation. So I looked in my rearview mirror the other day, an army vehicle with sirens, a pickup.
Like we at war.
With sirens.
Yeah. Where are you going?
What he doing? So the majority of traffic ignored this man, and I'm talking in Kitty on the way to the roundabout, ignored him until he turned off his siren and he was in the line of traffic like everybody else.
Yeah.
And you got a sense, there was a kind of sense of satisfaction generally, everybody.
Yeah. It's like a protest.
Yeah, wait your turn. You're not in an emergency. You have no right to be doing it. Stop.
Yeah, I love this conversation.
Respect the citizens.
Yeah.
Show your power and exercise your power in a way that respects the people who put you in power.
Yeah.
The whole plantation massa mentality that is becoming more and more obvious, more and more evident, really needs to go.
Yeah.
Leadership is about protecting the dignity of the people that you are leading.
Yeah, absolutely. I was watching a reading, I can't remember, it's a little while back, about what the French Constitution was written and what the ideology that it was based on. I think it was somebody, Montesquieu or
liberty, equality, and fraternity.
Right. And that no man should have to live in fear of any other man. All men are equal. All rights are equal. I don't care if you're the highest in government, or the weakest in
And
society.
the duty of the powerful, therefore, has to be to protect the weak.
Correct.
Now, that's what leadership is about.
Absolutely.
Protecting the weak, and we're not seeing it.
And
what we're
not.
seeing is the aggrandizement of the people in power, the grab for more money,
Mm-hmm.
and ignoring the rights of the people who put them there, even the people who put them there, who supported them and voted for them. And I'm talking 2015 and 2020.
Mm-hmm.
They ignore those people. They keep their family and friends close for their own aggrandizement, for their own wealth, and the rest can go to hell.
Yeah.
And right now, we are going to hell.
Blackout is a perfect example. Blackout is a perfect example. How are you telling me you can't solve blackout in this small country with little bit people? I'm going to make it as dumb as possible. Are you telling me you can't find a company in this entire planet that can come into our little village of 1 million people and state, this is the system you need to put in place to make sure everybody has power consistently?
Systems again, huh?
I don't understand it. And it just goes to show they just don't care because they don't have the problem. And then I think this is the most important part. And I think people need to really take this in because I think it's one of the driving factors of even me personally being politically involved. I should not have to live in fear about fighting for my rights.
That's another aspect of the arbitrariness when the systems break down, that you're helpless. There is no recourse. There's nowhere to turn. If you need the police, you go to the police station, you hear that they don't have any vehicle to come to the scene to see what's going on, or the other side has been there first. I've heard of somebody who was told he was to come to court as a witness. When he got to court, he learned he was the defendant in a dangerous driving charge. So you don't trust the system. Because you know that there is somebody out there who can pay money to get to the front of the line, or somebody who can pay money to undermine it, or somebody who can call a minister or call somebody in power so that they get preferential treatment and you don't. And all of that turns on the breakdown in the system. And if you don't trust the system, then guess what? You don't use the system.
Yeah.
You find yourself paying the money or calling somebody that you think can help and avoiding the system. So that it is a vicious cycle and it gets worse and worse.
Yeah. And where I'm seeing people lash out, the only place you're watching all of this anger blow out into the public is on the roads.
Well, that's where it's most obvious. I wouldn't say that's the only place it happens, because you hear people cussing and carrying on in the line in the bank when they got to wait too long. So our responses, and we're not a polite society. Yeah, a thing is what it is in Guyana. So if we gotta say it, we say it. We don't get politically correct. We call it what it is. We're afraid sometimes of the repercussions, so we grumble under our breath. But almost anywhere you go, you see people rolling their eyes, sucking their teeth, shrugging, annoyed because they're waiting too long for their passport, or they're waiting too long in the line, or somebody else jumped the line and they can't do anything about it. The systems don't work, and there's no faith in the system, and you're helpless.
Yes.
So your family member gets injured on the street, you're almost certain that you don't get a just response. You don't get a quick result. You don't get a fair result. You don't get a fair investigation. You're almost certain of that. So what do you do? And our helplessness is exposed to us because there is no system that we can turn to that's reliable, unless you can pick up the phone and call some high-ranking policeman to get it done.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah. Just on the last topic, before I jump into this cash grant situation, Tim, something got to be done with these sand trucks. These big, large trucks in general. I mean, let's be honest, if you sit down on any given day over the past 2-3 weeks, months, and every day somebody dies. Look at the Heroes Highway. I mean that truck, every day a truck turning over there, every day a truck knocking on a post, knocking on somebody. And at the end of the day, what you're realizing is that, the sympathizers say we got to pay for progress. Nobody has to pay with their life for progress, because these things, again, are big construction companies owned by some big boy, as we all know, the ones that weren't at the meeting, at the 5:30 meeting. And these trucks are just pelting down the road, no regard for anybody. Here's the two things that I want to stick on for this. That if they cared, if the government cared at this point about the people, it would have been done already. First thing, proper training for the drivers. These guys are operating heavy-duty machinery that are completely different from driving a car or a motorcycle, which you're accustomed to, or a minibus or whatever they've been driving before. The momentum, how they stop, how they start, everything about them is different. All right, how they handle, how they maneuver, everything is different. These guys are not trained at all. Anybody could just go and jump in a truck now, carrying 10 tons of material, going down the road, doesn't know how far he needs to brake to stop, doesn't even need to know how his air brakes or hydraulics work.
Well, you say if the government cared. I don't think this is an issue of the government not caring. We're all Guyanese, and trust me, the people in government are just as patriotic as any of us. I think this goes to competence. Because if you see a problem evolving, then before that problem becomes too large to handle, you try and grab it and keep it contained. Our economy is exploding. There's a huge number of trucks coming in. If you talk to anybody who's trying to hire truck drivers,
necessarily
you can't find them because those boys are in demand and they can call large money for salaries. They're really in demand. I promise you that the police system of licensing truck drivers has not changed. So that begs the question immediately that if 20 years ago you had 3 or 4 or 5 licenses being issued every month, and now you got 50, how did that happen? I don't see trucks going around coffee on a police escort.
Parallel parking
and getting their license, right? I don't see that happening.
Exactly.
So you have to very carefully investigate how are the licenses being granted. That's the first thing. The second thing is you got to monitor where the trucks are being kept. Now, anywhere you go, if you go over the St. John right now, you will see trucks parked up and down on the parapet, go up the East Coast, going residential.
Anywhere.
That is unacceptable. Trailers, containers, trucks. I mean, it is
dangerously at the side of the road.
Very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
It obstructs your vision. It obstructs your view. It also is not fair to your neighbor who wants to live in a peaceful, quiet, pleasant-looking place to have a container or a trailer parked over the road. So we need to have rules immediately put in place that mandate no truck should be left unattended in any public place. No trailer, no container left unattended.
You want to buy trucks, you have to have a place to park them.
Go and park it somewhere.
Yes.
And then drive your car home in the evening to your residential neighborhood.
And we're not short of land.
The second thing is that the fines for leaving your trailers and your trucks and your large equipment out on the road at night should be high. Now, there also should be a point system for truck drivers, and it should be strictly implemented. One of the reasons that there's a backup of traffic is every last truck drives in the right-hand lane, in the overtake lane on all of the highways. So you got to overtake them on the inside. They can't see you coming. They're creating a dangerous situation, and they're blocking up traffic, adding to the aggravation we already have. These are things that are easy to implement, not a single rule, not a single provision to say that we are taking control of a growing problem.
Yes.
So people are dying. Cars are getting hit. People are in danger. We will see how long it lasts before somebody grasps the nettle, shows a bit of competence and a bit of innovation, and takes measures.
But again, Tim, as I mentioned to you, these people can put this system in place. This is not rocket science. This is not something that doesn't exist around the world. Now, I mean, we watching these trucks go around the roundabout. How many times now every day a truck rolls over on the roundabout because they don't know how to drive?
Well, also they're overloaded. And again, there's a system, because you should have, based on the number of wheels the truck has, each wheel shouldn't take more than a certain amount of weight.
And definitely overloaded.
And if you're overloaded, you become top heavy, you become unstable, and you turn over, you roll over, and we see it happening. It's also bad for the road. So we see our roads, which aren't built well in the first place, disintegrated. Systems need to be followed. And believe it or not, there's actually a system where police can weigh the tire. You put a weight under each wheel. If it's overloaded, there should be a penalty, there should be a fine.
Yeah, but again, back to police corruption and who making a raise and which policeman pulling them into, where are they going to weigh them?
We see trucks with no tarpaulin covering the back.
Yeah,
so
things flying out.
Flying out, sand flying
all over.
I have in my household 2 cars. Both of them have cracked windscreens from bricks that are flown out the back of a truck.
Yeah. Somebody just wrote, come down to Barbies and see what's going on. I was in Barbies recently. I know exactly how bad it is over there. No, if we think Georgetown has a little bit of policing. If we think things are bad here, as the minute you step out as Gribbo George, up the highway, up the bank, up Barbie side, partner, there is no regulation, no rules, no nothing. Every man for himself out there. It is and again, you want to talk about things that are not reported, how much accidents has happened in those areas. Every weekend I used to take a trip out to town. But with that said, another solution, just again, lastly, another solution, I can tell you all this right now, which will solve, I think, at bare minimum 50% of the issues with our trucks on the road. They need to put limiters on these trucks. There is no need for any of these trucks to go past 60 kilometers an hour. Okay? I'm sorry. There is I have looked at this backwards and forwards. You don't need power to overtake. All right? You should not be going that fast to need to overtake anyway. All right? The roads are too small. From the time those trucks come off of the boat and onto the wharf, GRA, somebody can put a mandated limiter on those trucks that they cannot pass 60 kilometers an hour.
But you know, Kian, again, going back to systems that we inherited from the British, everybody's familiar that when you got a goods truck, the truck should have a sign on it that tells you, first of all, what its maximum laden weight is, and when it's laden, what its maximum speed is.
Right.
So it's there already. We just ignore it.
Yeah.
It's just a number for us.
Yeah.
But if it was implemented systemically, everybody would know what the rule is and you'd be able to deal with it.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I'm seeing happening, I've seen a lot of cameras going up on the roads all around the place. I hope that is eventually going to tie back to a holistic central point where traffic can be monitored and the trucks driving in the overtake lane at a slow pace get stopped, and that there's some kind of system to penalize the drivers, some kind of system to penalize the owners. I'm really hoping to see that there is an improvement in our road use.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we can let's jump into what I think the people want to hear about, and it ties back into the conversation of systems, right? And J.K. Lal wrote a letter yesterday, I believe, in the newspapers. Rob, you could just bring up the it was about this. Sorry, for Instagram, it says, it's just a clip that says VP Jagdeo confirms not everyone will get cash grant before Christmas. Encourages citizens to be patient. All right. So confirmed by the vice president, everyone will not be getting their cash grant before Christmas. Now, I do want to state, I want to make sure I get this from the beginning. I want to cover everything, okay? The first time we heard about this cash grant was a few months back, in which the president of Guyana went into Parliament, did all his fanfare, did all of his, bells and whistles, turned all the cameras on, and told everybody, you're getting $200,000 per household. 1 week passed, and then the second week, everybody up to today is still asking what a household is. Nonetheless, the government claim they listened to the feedback and they've come up with a better solution. They're going to give, the president then went back onto camera in front of the whole nation and said, this is going to be very simple. Just come with your ID or your passport, your valid passport, and you will collect your $100,000.
And we're doing it before Christmas. So and we're spend for Christmas.
And we're doing it before Christmas. So let's just make sure there is contradicting information.
So, again, we see no system and we see arbitrariness. So first arbitrary decision, households get money.
Good.
Then when that arbitrary decision is clearly nonsensical, second arbitrary decision, now we're giving you all $100,000. We gave fishermen the other day. We gave Gaisuku workers before that. We gave farmers. Arbitrariness.
COVID, school children, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm.
Let's get these white envelopes out so that, people can't say we're not doing anything.
Right.
There needs to be a system.
Good. So let's just get to where we are right now. So after weeks of not hearing about our everybody, it starts to come back up. It became a funny joke going on social media where everybody's like, anybody hear about the 100,000, right? So everybody was like, nah, what's happening with this? So the government, obviously now in damage control mode, is now, okay, we need to figure out how we're getting this to these people. Now, I'd also like to make this very clear to everyone.
There's the issue of overseas Guyanese, remember?
Yeah. Oh,
flying back.
Right. Oh, yes, people flying back for the 100,000. So we heard all the nonsense. And we're now at a point, let's fast forward through all the laughable stuff. We're now at the point here where they have decided that they're going to do this, and I call it a 3-part system because I believe, anyways, let me explain it. So the first thing they're doing is they said they're giving it to senior citizens and public servants, I believe. All right, elderly and so on. So they said we are going to give those people their 100,000 first. But here's what needs to happen: you need to come in. You need to bring a valid ID and passport and register. You need to fill out a form. By the way, the form got all kind of questions: how much money is earned, where is live, where is do, blah, 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 right? All of this information, plenty information on this thing. They then need to take your picture, okay? They snap a picture of you right there.
With your ID.
Yeah, I guess you're holding up your ID. I don't know what they're doing.
I'm not shot.
Yeah. So you do your registration, okay? Then they send you away. You're now registered. They say, we are going to call you back, and we're going to tell you where and when to come and collect your check. So they're giving out checks now. So they've decided they're going to write up your check for 100,000, and you now need to come back and line up again and collect your check wherever they tell you, wherever community it is. So this is the second time you're lining up. And then you need to collect your check, sign off, collect your check, happy. You need to find your way into a bank. All right. I don't know about y'all, but I don't know how many y'all been into a bank recently.
Well, there'll be many more in that bank.
Oh, shit.
In the line.
So let me tell y'all, you then need to line up in a bank. And I've already heard, and I've heard the chirps, and I know they're going to get louder because I know the banks are meeting about this. You can go into your commercial bank with your check and collect your $100,000 cash. Now,
oh,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you could go and collect your money. So you now have to line up 3 times to get this 100,000. The banks themselves
have to have serious cash reserves.
Have to have billions of dollars on hand. Now, I'd also like to point out just the kind of simmering point behind. I believe they have said that the cost to hand out this money,
I was wondering about that.
Yeah. Yes, is in and around. I don't even know if I should say the number because I want to reconfirm the number. The truth is, it's in the billions. Okay,
no doubt.
Think of it as an election.
The administrative undertaking.
Yes.
Of finding accommodation, finding personnel, training the personnel, having all the paperwork, all the pictures, a computer system to store it in the database, technicians to keep that database in order and index it and keep track of everybody, write the checks, issue the checks, send out the checks to whole new places for people to go back to collect the checks. It's a nightmare.
We're in billions of dollars. Yeah. I'm telling you that one
thing. I think they need to put that on a shelf and try and fix the truck driver's problem, because that's an easy problem to fix.
I don't think people really have wrapped their head around how poorly and how much money, and I know, listen to me. I'm telling you, Tim, people need the money. Give the people the money.
Definitely.
Right? I'm definitely not sitting here saying this is bullshit, the government is garbage, I'm not attacking. I'm happy that in some way people are getting money. I believe they need it. But I'm actually going to hand this over to you because I want you to give your opinion on cash grants in general. And just a quick thing, like synopsis of your feelings of cash grants. And then I want you to give a better solution, what you think, because I know you got it, on what should have been done here.
All right. The lining up that you foresee happening should not happen. It robs people of their dignity. People got to work, people got to live, people got to look after their children, and it sounds as if they got to line up 3 times. 3?
What about people young professionals that work? What about people disabled? Look, my leg broken. How are you lining up 3 times?
The last time they did a handout to the elderly, they had one large group of elderly at the cultural center waiting, another large group at in Durban Backlands by the church waiting hours. You can't do that to old folk.
No.
You can't do that to the handicapped. You can't do that to people who are weak.
Right.
It's your job to protect the weak. Now, if we were competent and if we had respect for systems, we would find a way to deal with this as a system and as a continuing process, not a one-off arbitrary handout.
Right.
We have seen too many one-off arbitrary handouts. Look, there are some things we got to do. And I'm sorry, it's not exciting, but it has to be done. We got to bring every Guyanese into the NIS. We got to bring every Guyanese under the GRA radar so that they're all declaring and paying. No, that doesn't sound nice. People don't like to hear that. But let me tell you, taxation needs to be fair, and it needs to be done in a way that the people at the top of the economic food chain are subsidizing the people at the bottom of the economic food chain. I don't want $100,000. I don't need it. But I would like to see that $100,000 go to the mother who got too many children and can't afford to look after them, can't afford to pay for them to go to school. I want to see the money go to the people who need it. Now, if anybody disagrees with that, please tell me. Please tell me why it is that a wealthy doctor, a wealthy lawyer, a wealthy businessman, the owner of Gaffurs, the owner of all those businesses you see on Regent Street, must be lining up next to Mrs. Griffith or Mrs. Khan, who have no money, who poor, whose husbands have gone or died, or who are unmarried, with children, looking after major responsibilities.
Retirees, pensioners.
All of them must line up and get the same $100,000. It is not fair. That is not how a system must work.
Right.
If you take the same money and you find a way to direct it only to the people who need it, those people get twice as much money.
Correct.
Because you're not giving it to the rich folk. How do you do that? You say to them, register for NIS. NIS has a system. So before you even go to the public, you set up NIS and you give it the capacity so that it can take large amounts of money, and it knows that its database has all of these Guyanese on it, and it knows their income. It
The
knows
vulnerable.
It knows who are declaring and paying their NIS. The employed people, everybody should be paying NIS. When you reach an age, you don't pay, NIS starts paying you back. If you're unemployed, you should be getting an unemployed benefit. So NIS should have that database already.
It's simple. All
you need to do is you need to say anybody who is registered as unemployed at NIS will be getting $80,000 a month for as long as they're unemployed. And we are going to find a way to encourage them to be employed. Anybody who is disabled, I'm sorry, politically correct is differently abled. Somebody interrupted me the other day to say that. Anybody who is differently abled will get $60,000 a month forever.
Right.
If you got a child, if you're a mother with a child, you get $50,000 a month forever until the child is 18. If your income and therefore the amount you pay to NIS is small, if your income is under $100,000, you will get a subsidy of $40,000 a month. So you stagger it down, giving more to the people who need it the most.
Yeah.
People like me now who are paying NIS, I will continue to pay NIS, and I will be subsidizing this continuous payment to the people who need it the most.
Correct.
And when the government got extra money, like Ashley Singh went into Parliament day before yesterday to say, we're taking this money out of the Consolidated Fund. You can't do anything about it, to the opposition. And by the way, all the terrible people, y'all signed a secret $18 million signing bonus. He brought that one out of the hat again. It doesn't need to be done. Because as a system, when you do your budget every year, you know how much you need to give into the NIS to subsidize this ongoing process that is paid for by the people who are contributing to NIS, subsidized by the government out of the free oil money, and goes to the people who need it the most.
Correct. Absolutely. I'm sorry. I just like to simplify things, just maybe in different words. Again, the NIS system is already set up for this, and people need to understand this. Everyone above 18 years old, whether employed or not, they would be encouraged to go and register with NIS. Everyone will fall under the umbrella because there will be a benefit to you doing this.
And they will insist that their employer registers them.
Right.
Because a lot of employers don't want to register their employees because they got to pay.
Right.
But if I'm an employer and I know you're only paying me $100,000 a month, But if I'm on NIS, I will be getting a
correct, $50,000. I'm telling you every month to go and pay my NIS
and you know
contribution.
What? I don't even need to tell you to your face. All I got to do is go to NIS and say, here's my pay slip. I'm working for the month.
Except the money paying.
NIS will go and deal with it.
Go and deal with it.
So you don't even need the confrontation.
Absolutely.
But the end result will be everybody now comes under the radar.
Under the radar.
And that same employer who tried not to pay NIS for his staff,
correct,
GRA can then say, I understand you have 5 members of staff. NIS just told me that they discovered you have 5 and haven't been paying. Can you please give your declaration?
There you go.
So everybody comes under the radar.
Correct.
And then as a system, we can use our free oil money to improve the dignity and standard of living of Guyanese.
Yes, in a sustainable manner, in a way that the weak and the people in society that need it most are given it. Because right now, as you said, everyone getting 100,000 and I'm sorry, if you don't know this, then I really can't help you. It will make things worse in the long run. All right, not this one-off cash handout. I'm sorry, there are people that need the money. I agree, they can collect their money 1 month down the line, 2 months down the line, as soon as Christmas done, whatever the situation is. I'm sorry, they are then back in desperate need of more.
A single cash handout helps a single time.
Right.
But next month you've forgotten it, because $100,000 is not a lot of money if you're feeding children, clothing children, and paying rent. So it's not the way to do it. It doesn't work. What that is the king coming down and throwing coins at the peasants, and the peasants grabbing the crown, the coins, and saying long live the king.
Right.
We can't live like that. We are all equal. And if we're all equal, as you say, liberty, equality, fraternity. And the job of our leaders is to secure the dignity of the weak, to secure the dignity of the ordinary folk. Then you have to have a system that the ordinary folk know they are going to benefit, not on a one-off freck that you get because of the benevolence of the almighty leader, but because the system protects them.
Yeah.
The system has to protect them.
Yeah. Absolutely. And let me jump a little 2 steps further in this scenario for everyone here, because we were talking about it, and since day one, and we're going to repeat this again. This $100,000, all of us that are working, all of us that pay taxes, every young professional out there working day in, day out, 9 to 5, coming home tired. You now then here you gotta go and line up to collect 100,000 that you need. I get it. I'm sorry. If this happened in a minority parliament in which everybody was consulted, in which everybody had to put in 2 cents into making this plan work, I'll tell you right now, why is it not that PAYE has been dropped? Why is it not VAT has been adjusted? I'm sorry, you got money to go and hold T20 tournament. Big worldwide, bringing teams, spending plenty money. We know that's coming from the government. All right? And you raise the threshold. Right? There are so many other mechanisms that could have been deployed here, and people would have already been seeing this money. Well, more so.
That's another aspect of it, because we did talk about, you bring these people into NIS so that they can benefit from the disability benefits, from the maternity benefits, unemployment benefits, sickness benefits, all of those things. Great. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, to encourage the people who are working, to make it more profitable for them, to let them see their way, you do need to say to somebody who's getting $125,000 a month, man, you're below the threshold for tax. You don't need to pay PAYE anymore. You do need to raise your PAYE threshold, and you need to stagger it so that people are incentivized to work, knowing that they are taking all of their money home when they're at that stage, but that the people who can afford it are subsidizing them because they are paying PAYE.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to suggest, and we talked about it before, and I think it's important because we are seeing so many non-Guyanese in the country right now. There needs to be a different regime for non-Guyanese, for foreigners who have got a visa to come to Guyana to work. They need to be paying more PAYE. They need to be paying for their visa. They need to be helping the subsidization I'm talking about. They need to be paying for the privilege to work in our country. And that will also contribute to helping the overall structure education care, health care, social care. It will help to that. But we need to know that we are the preferred, we are the first class citizen. We're not seeing it yet.
What a fantastic, I'm going to bring this up, I'm going to call them out on it. We are all seeing it every day. We see the foreign workers coming. They use in our roads, they use in our hospitals, they use in the police, they use in the electricity.
We're glad to have them.
Yes, I completely agree. You have to have them. They're professionals. But at the same time, they pay for their way in their country. How are they coming here, getting a salary, not paying their fair of taxes here, using all of our facilities because they're not using the facilities in their country anymore?
The system contemplates that they pay taxes. But what I'm saying is that if you want Guyanese to compete in oil and gas, you want Guyanese to compete in any area of endeavor, they must compete not on an even playing field. Guyanese must have preferential treatment.
Right.
So if you're paying $100,000 for an engineer, the Guyanese engineer will not pay PAYE on that. But if a foreigner is hired for that same job, he will pay PAYE on his $100,000.
Yeah.
So that the Guyanese has an advantage. That is how we need to be working.
Yeah.
That's how this is.
And employers will be more encouraged to utilize Guyanese professionals.
Definitely.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, though, Tim, I mean, we're watching not only at the professional level, not only at the worker level. And I talk, and they're bringing in workers on all scales to do all manner of jobs that are coming into the country, getting paid big salaries for jobs that locals can do. I'm sorry. And the fact of the matter is, they are getting, we are the ones that are compensating for their ride. All right. And they're, and the money that they're making while utilizing our system. But it doesn't even stop there. The same thing is happening with the businesses. The same thing is happening with the foreign companies coming in and getting all the benefits, and Guyanese not getting what the foreign companies are getting. Not getting the tax concessions, the duty frees, not getting the tax breaks. I'm sorry, Tim, not getting the access to the land, not getting half of these things.
Well, I wish it could be done simply, but it has to be done in stages. And I will give credit for the Local Content Act, where it's confined to gas and oil, I'm afraid, but where the legislation insists that some companies that are offering some oil and gas services must be Guyanese companies and has a definition for that. That's a drop in the ocean. That is one step. It does need to go further. The tax differential needs to be clear. Again, I'd said it before, I would like to see laws prohibiting ownership by foreigners of land in Guyana. I really think that if a business is starting and is foreign owned, they must pay rent to Guyanese.
Yeah.
So the reason I think that's a good idea is that we are seeing an influx of people who have much more money than Guyanese do.
Yeah.
And we are seeing
compete.
Prices skyrocketing for land. Guyanese can't afford it. So Guyanese are becoming the tenants in their own land. And that shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So there are different steps you can take to ameliorate what you see happening. That people coming with more money are taking all the good. We're not seeing enough being done.
No, I love it. I love that conversation of understanding. I mean, we don't even have the access to the capital, right? The financing itself. And I think it's going to come to a point now where Guyanese need to start opening their eyes that you could talk about progress all you want, but at this point in time, what I see going on with businesses opening in Guyana and locals running their businesses, and you could talk to any businessmen here that are not, in the government's favor, family or friends. The fact of the matter is, you're not making more profit at the moment. You're just moving money around more. It's just a larger sum of money that they're moving in circles. I talk to these companies all the time, the supermarkets, the car companies, the this, the that, and what they're seeing is their expenses going up through the roof and profit margins dropping. Yes, there's more money coming into the system, into their business, but it's not a profit, right? We're talking about gross. And at the end of the day, people are starting to realize that. And unless people start opening their eyes and, saying something or forcing their government into making the changes that benefit them, we're just going to be left here in second class.
So what
as you said, the big hotels building. Why the hotels building? You could afford to stay in it. The fact of the matter is, hotels building in Guyana for Guyanese to work at the hotel, not to stay in the hotel.
What I would like to see next year, we're at the end of the year, a new calendar year is coming. I really would like to see an announcement by the government of reform measures taken in the NIS and reform measures taken in the tax structure, so that the NIS is mandated and is empowered and it's budgeted for, not that you keep going back to Parliament to take more money out of the till, but budgeted in the budget that is presented annually as part of the system, that the NIS becomes the central point of finding the way to get the free oil money to the people who need it the most. And I really would like to see next year that a system is devised, a system is announced, so that everybody, from the time you leave school, you should automatically be registered for NIS. You should automatically then declare if you're working or if you're unemployed. As soon as you get a job, you announce it to NIS. So that NIS then has every Guyanese and every non-Guyanese who works in Guyana under their radar, and is then in a position to use the subsidization to take the payments from the people who are paying the most, to increase the subsidization so that the people at the bottom feel the direct benefit that they need to get so that they can live in dignity, and we are protecting the weak and the powerless among us in this country. Excellent. That's what we need.
Excellent. Simple, simple. On that note, guys, we are going to finish off right there. All right. Two nice topics today. We appreciate you guys joining us. I'm going to say this, as I say, it's a really nice weekend. I mean, we're coming up to Christmas now. I think everybody kind of give some people some hope. Give some people, it's time to, if anything at all this Christmas, what I want to tell people is spend some time with your family. I mean, that is the one thing that I know, you might not have all the money to have all the big fancy Christmas and have all the fun that you're dreaming of, etc. But if anything at all, you have life, you have your family.
You're going to see more road congestion. And I want to urge Guyanese, look at yourself. So if you see somebody that needs to get into the traffic, stop. Allow them to get into the traffic. If you see somebody at the pedestrian crossing that needs to cross, stop. Allow them to cross. Drive carefully. Stop at the red light. Yeah. You do the right thing. And I promise you, it will pass forward. Because when you let somebody out, that person is going to remember it and they will stop to let somebody else out. So start with yourself, because if you don't, the congestion and the road rage and the anger that you see permeating the society right now is only going to get worse. So charge yourself, take the mote out of your own eye, charge yourself to try to do the right thing by the people around you and see if it doesn't work. That's the only way to start. You gotta start with you. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, guys, on that note, and I have to say this, my daughter's 13th birthday is on Tuesday, so I have to say happy birthday to Alera. Happy birthday.
This is a big one. All right, on that note, guys, thank you for joining us. We'll be back here next Friday with you guys. Please be careful out there and have a wonderful weekend. Take care.
Take care.